I'm not Quasimodo, and this isn't Notre Dame. I'm Kevin, the Camp Bigfoot. You know, the guy with Bigfoot with the keys. I'm the property manager here at Camp Foster. Today I'm going to talk to you a little about the history of bells, in particular Camp's bell. Bells have been used since the Bronze Age, I guess, and that'll give you something to do. You could look it up on the internet, the Bronze Age. It's kind of nice because when they invented bells, it replaced those blasted horns. They would warn people of rocky shoals and stuff along the shorelines. It would warn that there is danger coming. Sometimes bells would ring for joyous reasons like your school victory, wedding bells. Bells have been used for a lot of reasons because, of course, they didn't have electricity in them and the internet way back when. Firemen, they used to call the firemen to call when the bell rang, then everybody. And even in my early days here at camp, before I had a cell phone, before I had a pager, when they really needed me, how did they get a hold of me? They rang the bell. And you know what? When somebody rings the bell long enough, you usually come and running, if nothing else. Who's ringing that darn bell? Kind of like on The Wizard of Oz. Who rang that bell? Anyway, we still use the bell for a warning system and signal the time to eat, time to do this or that at camp, and more so for when there's tornadoes or a storm warning, you need to go to the storm shelter. Of course, it's followed by a continuous ringing process. Camp's first bell, from what I believe, it sat down in front of the dining hall. It was on a rock pillar. It was probably about 4 or 5 feet tall, nice stone pillar. It was a cast iron bell that was painted silver. Well, anyway, that bell cracked and it didn't ring anymore. So what did they do? They needed to get it fixed. So Eric, the property manager before me, loaded it up in the truck, took it into town to the local welding shop, Jerry's welding shop. Jerry said, I'll put my guy on it. And he called the guy forward, this young, good looking, handsome man, to weld it for him. Who was that? The actual helmet. Ironically, it was me. I started working at a welding shop when I was in high school. So I welded the original camp bell, but of course, once the bell is cracked, just like the Liberty Bell, it no longer rings, it just clanks. So even though I fixed it, it sat down there to the dining hall as it was until about 1986 when we remodeled and added the covered walkway out in front of camp, or out in front of the dining hall. We added that walkway. We had to remove that stone pillar and the bell. The bell went out to the boneyard and was in the weeds and mysteriously, sadly disappeared after we had a scrap iron guy here. It wasn't supposed to go, but somehow it disappeared. I don't know. The pillar itself is actually holding up the bank on the ravine going out to the ranch, right underneath the sign that says ranch. It's actually on the north side of that ravine holding that bank in from washing away. So we do recycle stuff out here all the time. So anyway, since the bell was broken, it needed to be repaired, or it couldn't be repaired. So the new camp director, Ken Lockard, wanted a bell. So they secured one up in Wisconsin, and in late fall of 1978, they drove the camp Suburban up to Wisconsin and purchased a bell from a camp for $500. The brass bell that we all know and love and have heard of thousands of times. The wooden platform that was built originally to hold the bell up collapsed in the mid-'80s, I would say, and the bell wouldn't ring anymore because, of course, it was dragging on the plywood deck. So at that time, I was strong enough, I actually lifted the bell, duck walked it over to the edge of the roof, put it in the bucket, got it down, made a brand new steel bracket. Remember, I was a welder back in BC. That's before camp. I made a new steel bracket, including the 1912 logo or date that you see on it to this day. And then I polished that bell, polished it. I got some mag polish at the auto parts store, and I polished that bell so she was just a shining. And then I emptied an entire can of fancy automotive lacquer on there, so it would, and it still shines pretty good. 35 years later, it's still shining pretty darn good. So anyway, that's about what I know about the bell, and we all get to enjoy it. You know, the funny thing was, back in about many times throughout the years, people have tried to discombubrate the bell, either take the rope off, or I've seen them tie socks around the clanker so it doesn't ring in the morning. Any number of things. But one time, this would have been in 1991, maybe 92, during a women's fitness camp. There was a lady that always got up because they always had a 6 o'clock wake up bell, because then the ladies would all go walking and jogging and whatever that they did that morning, just like we do at camp. Well, this one lady, they decided to pull a prank on it. So they rigged it up so the thing would get her in the morning. Okay, so the lady got here in the morning. She tugged and she tugged and she tugged on the bell, but she couldn't get the bell to work. What was wrong? So she stepped back and looked and realized that it was just snagged. So she stopped and gave it a big tug.
Was it anything like that?